as Wünderbred.
It's like you get married, no? You go with the wife, white, the woman is white, you take the woman. If you respect the woman, you will never have child. You need to open the costume and to rape the bride. And then you will have your picture. I was raping Frank Heber, raping like this, but with love. With love.
Bret Easton Ellis once said that scripts were meant to be performed, not read. As a filmmaker and writer myself, I tend to agree with that notion. However, as of late, I've found myself drawn to Cary Fukunaga's unproduced adaptations for Stephen King's 1986 novel, It. There was so much hype surrounding the project while it was in pre-production, so much that occurred between the filmmaker and the studio that it could be dissected in essays. Fukunaga dropping out of the film after working on it for nearly 4 years led to great speculation. The internet was abuzz with rumors of the studio wanting a generic horror film, and these claims were perpetuated by the former director himself in interviews. It was also put out there that Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema were not comfortable with the latent sexuality of Cary Fukunaga and Chase Palmer's script. Posts dug up on a children's casting message board, as written by the parents of auditioning actors and actresses, seemed to confirm this. They had also voiced concerns about the material, further fueling rumors of the film's lack of boundaries. Fukunaga allegedly dug his heels in over this, and that's when Warner Brothers forcibly pushed him out of the director's chair. However, as somebody who has read not one but two wildly different drafts of Cary Fukunaga's It, dated back to early 2014 and mid-2015 respectively, I can assert that neither of the scripts are truly overtly sexual or shockingly inappropriate in the ways that they've been ascribed. And on top of that, of the two, the original untampered script from 2014 contains far more disturbing sexual moments than the later draft from 2015. For example, in the 2014 version, Alvin Marsh, the father of the one girl in the Losers Club, Beverly, outright assaults his daughter in a botched molestation attempt as driven by Pennywise. There is a similar scene in the 2015 edition that is far less graphic and a much faster read. Beverly's abuse is transparent and heavily alluded to, but rarely shown. The only other real sexual element included in the 2015 draft is that Richie Goldfarb, we'll get into that, is a heavily implied bisexual. So if we are to go off of what Fukunaga said in his interview, that the studio wanted tropes, not three-dimensional characters, that may be something of genuine concern for fans looking forward to this upcoming September release of It, because it's the only claim of those that have been given online regarding the departure that could possibly be verified at this point. But if that were indeed the case, then why use Fukunaga's script as a template? There are scenes and even lines from the 2014 and 2015 drafts that are actually featured in the trailers.
Pretty itchy. I'm pretty sure this is not.
Do you use the same bathroom as your mother?
Sometimes, yeah.
Then you probably have crabs.
That's so not funny.
Aren't you guys coming in?
It's gray water.
What the hell's gray water?
It's basically piss and shit. So I'm just telling you, you guys are splashed around in millions of gallons of dairy pee.
Maybe it had something to do with turning main characters into goldfish, or perhaps making too many leaps from the original material. We may never know. The 2014 draft of It from Cary Fukunaga and Chase Palmer was primarily set in 1988. Derry, Maine was more or less the same Derry, Maine as it was in King's novel, but its inhabitants were, different. Not different in any real surprising, interesting, or even hard to grasp ways, just unnecessarily different. Bill Denbrough was turned into Will Denbrough. Henry Bowers became Travis Bowers. Belch Huggins, Snatch Huggins. It seemed like a weird bone to pick with King's material. There was also less of a focus on turning Pennywise into the pop culture fears of the children. There was no mummy or teenage werewolf, or perhaps what would have been properly updated for 1988, Jason Voorhees or Freddy Krueger, or anything of the sort. Fukunaga's intent was seemingly to turn Pennywise into a personification of pubescent anxiety. For Stan Uris, that meant encountering a nude woman by the swimming pool. For Beverly Marsh, her father's corrupt mind and pervasive behavior. And for Bill, dealing with his younger brother's murder. The story itself moves in kind of a clumsy flow. The way that the children all come together not only falls short of the novel, but the first half of the 1990 miniseries. Their friendship translates to less of a genuine bond between the kids and more of a marriage of convenience. We meet Will, who in this version lacks his trademark stutter, and his younger brother Georgie at the beginning of the script, and it plays out beat for beat as you would expect. The small boy encounters Pennywise, and although he is unnerved by the clown, Pennywise still manages to lure George into the drain and dismember him. It's a well-crafted scene, and it truly sets the tone for not only what we're in for, but what the town of Derry is. Adults turn a blind eye to this kind of thing, and a question is raised as to whether that is a conscious decision or not. Following George's death, Will becomes an outcast in his own home, forced to live with two parents who don't know how to cope after his brother's death. One of the key differences between this adaptation and the original miniseries is that the bulk of the Losers Club is already formed at the beginning of the script. Will, Richie, Eddie, and Stan are already a strong quartet, which the others then penetrate midway into the movie. Later, we are introduced to Mike Hanlon, who Fukunaga adds a load of depth to in this rendition. Here, Hanlon is the homeschooled son of a butcher. One thing that this script captures particularly well is Mike's relationship with his father, as well as their plight. It says a lot without saying much and turns Mike and Leroy Hanlon into standout characters. They are, without doubt, two of the most well-written of the entire script. Unfortunately, that goes out the window with the 2015 draft, but we'll get there. In this version, school bully Travis Bowers, whose gang torments the Losers Club, is the son of a local officer, Butch Bowers. Later on in the script, Officer Bowers is responsible for triggering Leroy Hanlon's death in an act of police brutality. Through this and other subtle touches, the 2014 script manages to inject the idea of evil passing through generations in a way that was lost on the 1990 miniseries. Fukunaga was conscious of the greater effects of it beyond this central feeding cycle, and attempted to fill in voids of the past. Unfortunately, that didn't always work. In the script, we cut corners through time and meet a younger Leroy Hanlon at the infamous Black Spot, having a couple of drinks with, yes, you guessed it, Dick Halloran of The Shining. And then, through history geek Ben Hanscom's retelling, we flash back to Derry in 1879, which was very similar to an Old West-style town. That scene opens at the Silver Dollar Saloon. Given the setting, you'd expect a gunfight to break out. But no, it's just a mass slaughtering involving an axe while Pennywise plays the piano. This scene really doesn't work. I can appreciate what Cary Fukunaga and Chase Palmer were going for, but in this version, it's cartoonish and reads as laughable. The children get together little by little, and instead of building toward the rock fight and a trip into the sewer, the third act is marked by Stan's bar mitzvah. Prior to that, each member of the Losers Club has their own encounter with it both on and off screen. Eddie Kaspbrak's encounter with the leper is merely alluded to and never shown, which, according to production photos on Andy Muschietti's version of it, has since changed. The result of talking about these things and not giving the audience a clear depiction makes the script feel overcrowded and poorly paced, which at a whopping 134 pages should never be the case. That is a consistent problem with this version of it. It constantly feels as if the story is trying to catch up to where it should be instead of where it is. By the time the children do eventually enter the sewer fleeing from a crazed Pennywise-possessed Travis Bowers and his gang, it's difficult to actually care. In the book and in the TV miniseries, Pennywise for the most part stays true to his form before showing even a glimpse of his real embodiment, a massive cosmic arachnid. And while one of Bowers' goons happens to step on a floor made of a spider's amniotic sac, and then gets eaten alive by baby spiders after puncturing it, there is no giant mother spider in this draft. But that doesn't stop things from getting over-the-top wacky. Cary Fukunaga took a cue from H.P. Lovecraft and leaned into the altered states and creatures of the universe aspects of it. Deep in the sewer, they find an upside-down waterfall that leads to an enormous reflecting pool on the ceiling. Said reflecting pool appears to expose a pocket of reality, raw space and time. This reflecting pool works as a portal. This is where we get our first and only peek at Pennywise's true form. Not a spider, but a starfish. A giant tentacled creature with glowing orange eyes lives in this reflecting pool. Stan falls into the trance of the creature's deadlights, and it would presumably remain this interaction that would push Stan to suicide in part 2. The losers manage to drag him away from its psychological grasp, and the creature vanishes. A small trap door then appears, which they enter and become immersed in total darkness. This is where Will and Pennywise square off in a simplified version of the scene from the novel in which, flowing through eternal space, Will defeats it and sends the monster into hiding. The segment, in the book, explores the nature of being and sentience, and it would be almost unfilmable for anyone but David Lynch. The 1990 version does a serviceable job at making their encounter effective by keeping it strictly a battle between the losers and it in its earthly form. This script offers a cock tease of the cosmic entity and then flushes it down the toilet by killing Pennywise with a hairspray can. Literally, they kill the clown with a bottle of hairspray. The script comes to a solemn close after that, adding a last little bit of heart to this cold, dead interpretation of it. The losers swear to regroup if the creature is not dead. Leroy Hanlon passes away, and Will's family begins accepting him as a member of the house again before they take off on a camping trip, where in the final moments a red balloon floats on screen, and then pops. I had read this script and 2/3 of the way in felt a pang of disappointment over where it was heading. When I completed it, there was a sense of strong dissatisfaction in what Fukunaga had done to King's material. The changes were weak, and there was none of the heart of King's original book. I stepped away fully convinced that because of the downright poor quality of this script, the film would have been a disaster and the first true bomb for Cary Fukunaga. And then I began reading about a newer, different version that Fukunaga had written. A draft where the Lucky Seven was reduced to 6, where Stan Uris became Will Denbrough's pet fish, and Richie Tozier was, as stated before, a young Jewish man named Richie Goldfarb. If these were the tweaks to the script I had read, I was utterly convinced that each sequential draft only decayed the vision put forth. Still, I was highly intrigued by the thought of a version of it that could be so different from the source material. And so I sought it out, working day after day to find the screenplay, until finally a scanned hard copy of the script arrived in my inbox without a cover page or proper author credit. At a shorter 121 pages, I devoured the script in one sitting and made a complete 180 on my opinion of what Cary Fukunaga's It would have been like. This bastardized version of It was seemingly more faithful to the source material, brought out more life to the characters in their respective arcs, and fixed all of the flaws of that poorly scribed first draft from 2014. The suspense was heightened, and the relationships were natural. It was one of the best unproduced screenplays I've ever read. For part 3, I'm going to be getting into great detail about that 2015 script, so if you'd like to see more, hit subscribe, and if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up over in the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you for watching, and I will see you for the next part.